Welcome back, everybody, to the David Pakman Show. Luke Beasley here, filling in for David. He's traveling. Funnily enough, I'm also traveling. But when David calls, you take the call. And so that's why I'm not in a studio myself. But a great show ahead of us, starting with former President Barack Obama just absolutely devastating Donald Trump at a Harris event in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. People have been wondering, I've been wondering, where has Barack Obama been? He needs to, every day until the election, be doing rallies like this one, starting with this.
Or a car seat. Or diapers. I remember buying diapers. I remember the first time I went in the store, right after Malia was born. I was like, what? That's how much diapers cost? I remember changing diapers. You think Donald Trump ever changed a diaper? Yeah. I almost said that, but I decided I shouldn't say it.
What the crowd member said was his own, meaning Trump has changed his own diaper. But then on to something, even though that gets to a point about how out of touch Trump is and how his interest is himself. That man in the mirror, that's the one person that he's concerned with, and not people working, changing diapers, purchasing car seats, purchasing diapers, etc. And here, Obama makes a point that if you're a viewer of my show, and I know David Pakman has made similar points, but you know I bring this up constantly, a little bit of an obsession of mine. I wish more mainstream media figures would contextualize the Trump points that he'll make about the metrics of economic performance before the pandemic, while Trump was president, with how the inheritance of Biden-Harris is so different than that of Trump's. Meaning, the economy Trump inherited was solid compared to the disaster that Biden-Harris had to.
And then, don't boo. I'm going to break you of this habit. And the reason some people think, wow, I don't know, I remember that economy when he first came in being pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good, because it was my economy. We had 75 straight months of job growth that I handed over to him. It wasn't something he did. I had spent 8 years cleaning up the mess that the Republicans had left me the last time. So just in case everybody has a hazy memory, he didn't do nothing except those big tax cuts.
Exactly right. So often you'll hear people justify the fact that Trump is a civilly liable sexual abuser. Justify the fact that Trump refused to leave office until all of his allegedly illegal schemes failed to keep him in power unlawfully. Justify every one of the disastrous things he has said and done by going, well, the economy was good. And then you go, really? Because 4 years ago, everything was going to hell. And they say, well, no, before the pandemic. But if you're saying the big accomplishment of Donald Trump is not messing up a ton what was handed to him economically by Obama, seeing economic trends head about a little bit slow, but about in the direction they were expected to when Obama left office, and then mismanaging the economic crisis that came when Trump was called to be a leader during this economic, social, and public health crisis. That's the big accomplishment? That he did fail when he was called to lead, but things were sort of good when he inherited a good situation? Come on. than more from Obama.
She will have an outstanding partner in Governor Tim Walz. Tim is a veteran. He is a teacher. He's a coach. He's a hunter. He's been a great governor working with Democrats and Republicans to get stuff done. He can also take a vintage truck apart and put it back together again. You think Donald Trump can do that? For that matter, do you think Donald Trump has ever changed a tire in his life? I'm just trying to picture it.
Okay. I have to say, this is fantastic. But, sir, Mr. President, Barack Obama, where have you been? We need this a lot. This is the home stretch. And you just can't deny, even if you were someone who wasn't even if you're a MAGA person, I feel like you could acknowledge this is compelling stuff. His delivery, his rhetorical efficacy is compelling. And the substance, as you'll hear here, is compelling as well.
The other day, his running mate, J.D. Vance, had you got to vote. The other day, his running mate had the nerve to say, Donald Trump salvaged the Affordable Care Act. I mean, Donald Trump spent his entire presidency trying to tear it down. And by the way, he couldn't even do that right. And now, 8 years after he was elected, when he was asked about what he was going to do, he says he's got concepts of a plan for how he'd replace it.
Yeah, it would be funny if it weren't so devastating. And if it didn't represent the way that there's such a strong bubble that MAGA people get to live in, that they don't contend with how absurd and unpresidential that is. To get into politics, running in part on overturning, repealing the Affordable Care Act so that you can replace it with something way better. As Trump described it, by the way, back in the 2016 campaign, a plan that would be covered for everyone, universal, and free for consumers, and cheaper than what we have now, and also not one of those communist systems that the Democrats are proposing. Just, it never made sense. But to this day, he still doesn't have a plan. As Trump said, concepts of the plan is the best that he could come up with. And then the gall for Republicans now to be saying, oh no, Trump saved Obamacare. It's gaslighting like I've never seen before. Obama continued on this topic.
Or you could try it at home. Honey, did you do the dishes? I have a concept of a plan to do the dishes. How's that going to go over? If it wouldn't work for you, why in the heck should it work for the President of the United States?
That is a fantastic, fantastic question. Now, there's just so much from this, and I know that these segments, when I'm going through this many clips and have a lot to say, get drawn out too long. Let's try this one, and then we'll try to wrap up.
One of those values is freedom. And during election time, there are a lot of flags, and there's a lot of talk about freedom. So let me talk about that just for a second. Because I don't think we've ever had an election with candidates who understand freedom more differently. For Donald Trump and his cronies, freedom means that the powerful can do whatever they please. Fire workers for trying to organize a union, dodge paying their fair share of taxes, try to throw out your votes when they lose an election, control what women can and can't do with their bodies. In other words, for Trump, freedom is getting away with stuff.
Perfectly said, and it closed like this.
And the good news is that you have candidates to vote for in this election that demonstrate that kind of character, who know what real strength looks like, who will set a good example and do the right thing and lead this country better than they found it. So, Pennsylvania, that is the choice in this election. It's not just about policies that are on the ballot. It is about values, and it is about character. So whether this election is making you feel excited or scared or hopeful or frustrated or anything in between, do not just sit back and hope for the best. Get off your couch and vote. Put down your phone and vote. Grab your friends and family and vote. Vote for Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States.
And the energy, the rhetoric, the point, the substance, all of it's there at that rally, which is why, again, I say, I don't think I knew how much I felt this until I watched this rally, but now I'm a little bit upset. So he should be worried with Obama for not starting this earlier. These clips, the humor, the soundbiteable nature of them will make them go viral, will reach people in a way that some of the other rallies haven't. And so hopefully this and more to come will do just that. But on the last two clips, for so long, Republicans, I think illegitimately even then, or inaccurately even then, but especially now, they used to really own the term freedom. But especially now it's outrageous that they grab that term. And I think they're losing grip of it in the eyes of Americans. Because as Obama said, it seems like it just means freedom for Trump to do whatever he'd like personally or in his governance. Freedom to control people, freedom for the government to control people more. So that contrast needs to be laid bare. And then I know some people get upset with the get off the couch and vote rhetoric as if the only reason people aren't voting is just because they're too lazy. And there are tons of reasons and many that are to be empathized with. But I do think we have to call people or call upon people, given their responsibility to their country and to their neighbors, to vote for what is better for that country and those neighbors and those people individually. And this election is an example of one where you really don't want to sit out of it, given the stakes. Much, much more after this quick break.
Donald Trump has made it clear in a Truth Social post that if he gets elected, he will prosecute people in response to imaginary voter fraud, using the Justice Department as his personal tool for revenge. And it's crazy how conservative news outlets are framing this story, like this headline from Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire, which says Governor Burgum defends Trump against leftist outrage over his demand for fair elections. Meanwhile, when independent media outlet Mother Jones is reporting on the same story, their headline is the Trump plan to prosecute election officials and suppress the vote. So you get a totally different idea of the story depending on who's reporting it. Our sponsor, Ground News, makes it really easy to see these differences. For every news story, Ground News shows me a breakdown of how each outlet is framing the story, who owns the outlet, what their political bias is, so you can make up your own mind. I can also follow Ground News' dedicated 2024 presidential election page for each candidate, which is an amazing tool right now just to sort out fact from fiction on the race. And my viewers get 40% off the same unlimited access Vantage plan that I use when you go to ground.news/Pacman. The link is in the description.